Welcome to the Mom Needs a Moment podcast. We're your hosts, Chrissy
and Cindy,
co-founders of Her Health Collective.
We are two moms obsessed with revolutionizing the way moms take care of themselves. We are so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
A car accident in 2018 left Jenn Drummond awestruck and emboldened. Rescue workers couldn't imagine any scenario where she came out of it alive, but she did. That's when she realized you don't get to choose when you leave this life, but you sure can choose how you live it. Strengthened by this awareness, she set out to live in a more authentic and adventurous way. Jenn went on to obtain the Guinness World Record and is the first woman to climb the 7-second summits. Today, Jenn elevates others to master their own summit in life. She is a successful business owner and mom of 7 remarkable kids who boldly inspire and brazenly challenge her. And I love the story there where your kiddo was actually the one that kind of encouraged you to pursue that record. She is also an international speaker, author, and host of the Seek Your Next Summit podcast, who's focused on inspiring others to go beyond success to a life of significance. Jenn, it is such an honor to have you here, and we're so excited to hear your story and to learn from you, because I think this is a very important message that you are sharing with the world. So aside from what we just shared in the intro, who are you? Who is Jenn Drummond? Why do you do what you do? What are your current struggles as a mom of 7? You choose what to focus on, but you have 2 minutes. That's the only caveat.
2 minutes. Oh my goodness. Okay. I identify as a mom first, right? With 7 kids, how else do you identify? So mom first, business owner second, and then athlete third, I guess would be the priority. And I set those priorities because it helps me manage my calendar. Does my calendar match what I say I'm doing? Mom, business, athlete. And if athlete takes over, then I know I have to shift some things around. Or if business takes over, I need to shift some things around because I need to be a mom first. So just having those 3 priorities, and that helps me stay focused on what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know. I love life. I was definitely on that path of just waiting, right? Like I got my kids into school and I was a stay-at-home mom, which I was very grateful for, but I definitely was not thriving at that point, just because I was like, okay, well, someone needs me. I can run in a lunch or I can do whatever. The car accident really woke me up to the fact that we don't get to choose when we die, but we sure get to choose how we live. And I wasn't really living, and I wasn't really demonstrating how to make the most out of life to my children. So that accident woke me up to, we're going to do life in parallel. I'm going to have goals. You're going to have goals. We're all going to work together and whatever we're desired to do. And that's when I started to go for the world record, and things shifted for all of us.
That's so special that you have it in that order and that works for you. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I get to go into the fun questions, and you don't even know what this question is going to be, but if you could choose a number between 1 and 30, whatever number you feel like, and I'll tell you the question that matches that.
Hey, number 2.
Tell us an embarrassing story.
My goodness. From the mountains, I can tell you an embarrassing story. So we thought it was altitude sickness, but I was actually taking a drug so that I wouldn't get altitude sickness. And I was allergic to the drug. So I was sick, both ends, up on the mountain. I'm in it, I'm new to mountaineering, right? So I'm like, oh my goodness, is this normal? What is going on here? I had to share a tent with a guy because I'm the only girl on the expedition. And I literally was like, you have to roll that way and not face me, because I'm afraid that if I put underwear on, I won't get out of this tent fast enough and go to the bathroom.
Oh no.
So it was so bad, so embarrassing, so overwhelming, but I'm here to talk about it, I guess.
Oh, and unfortunately, up on a mountain, you don't have anything like diapers or Depends or anything.
No, nothing. I'm like,
that.
come on, are you serious? There can't be anything left in me that can come out of me. What's going on here?
When did you finally realize it was the medicine?
So I called, because I wasn't I was getting tingling feelings in my arms and my legs and my face. And so when we got back down to base camp, I called my doctor because we're like, what's going on here? Because that's not normal altitude issues. And so the doctor was like, that's an allergy. Like you actually are allergic to the altitude medicine. So don't take it anymore. I'm like, okay. And then I didn't. And about 4 days later, like once like my system kind of like got back into normal and all that happened.
So you had to finish the climb though, when you had
Yeah.
it.
I mean, we were at base camp and then I was like, okay, then I was feeling good. And so then when we went back up, because when you climb mountains, you actually do these acclimatization rotations. So you're going to go up to camp 1 and then you're going to come down to base camp. Then you might go up to camp 2 and then you'll come down to base camp, because that going up to that high point stresses your body out. When you come down to base camp, your body physiologically changes and makes more red blood cells. So then you can go higher up the mountain. So you can't, when you climb, you normally climb the mountain more than once just because you have to do those rotations. So I got sick on the first rotation. We came back down. And then when we went back up, I was fine because I didn't do the medicine.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
Do you still talk to the gentleman that you
Yes,
shared
I do. I do.
Oh,
I mean, everybody's had their fair share of being sick in the mountain. It's just
sure.
when, right?
Oh, that's great. That's absolutely awesome. I'd love to dive into your car accident because in a lot of ways, this was the catalyst to setting you on the path that you are currently on. We briefly touched on this in the intro. You talk about it on your website as well. It was in 2018, right? In the car accident. So this is an experience that clearly had a profound impact on you and how you see the world and how you operate in the world. This type of transformation can often come from living through a near-death experience like that. Can you share with us more in depth how this experience changed you and what lessons you took away from the experience?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of interesting how life works. And maybe I'm a little woo-woo in this thought process, but I was introduced to the book, The Surrender Experiment, about 2 months before I got into this car accident. And this book talks about how surrender is a superpower. And for me, up until that point, surrender was weakness, giving up, quitting. Like, how could that be a superpower? So for 2 months, I read this book and I journaled on it and I like kind of worked through my thought process on surrender and how surrender can really let you just be in acceptance and in flow of life and just allowing what unfolds to unfold. And so I'm like, oh, wow, it really can be a superpower. I watched this semi truck hit the passenger side of my car. And I like the second it collided, I was like, the only way I'm going to survive this accident is if I surrender. So I put my hands on the steering wheel. I put my head on the headrest and I stayed in my body. Like sometimes people say like they left their body and they watched it happen. I stayed in my body and I remember going, okay, I need to breathe through this turn and I need to stay relaxed. We're going to go 1 time over, 2 times over, 3 times over. And then the car started losing that momentum. So then it started doing sideways rolls. And then it was upside down in the median. And I remember like keeping my hand on the steering wheel, like, okay, now I'm going to get hit by another car. Now I'm going to get hit by another car. And it didn't, thankfully, happen. And an individual came running to the vehicle and they're yelling like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I could like hear them or whatever, but I wasn't really registering what they were saying. They pulled back the windshield because it was all shattered mess. And we caught eyes. And he looked at me and he goes, are you okay? And I just remember looking back at his face thinking, I'm not okay based on his facial expression. And so I closed my eyes and I wiggled my fingers and toes. And I just remember saying, I can feel my fingers and toes. I can feel my fingers and toes. I'm going to be okay. He's like, I'm going to sit with you until the ambulance comes, but I think you are. And so then I went to the hospital. They ran a million tests. I came home to the house and I was okay. And a few weeks after that accident, I got a phone call from the police station because they're trying to rebuild it because it's actually an area that they've had a few crashes that have ended fatally. And they're like, Jen, we have rebuilt this accident over 50 different times. We cannot build a scenario where you live, let alone walk away. Like we haven't been able to figure out how it's possible. And so that happened, right? So one of the lessons that I took from that, and I still do it to this day, is when life gets overwhelming, I don't look to the outside world to tell me if I'm okay. I close my eyes and I wiggle my fingers and toes. I'm like, I can feel my fingers and toes. Anything else is a story, right? Anything else is something I'm creating or I'm caught in that mess. But reality is like my body's okay. I can rewrite whatever story's going on in my head right now. I also think there's a huge thing. And like when I was doing life before that accident, I was like gripping harder, like challenge me, I'll challenge you back. Like I had that personality. With that book and just the work that I was doing personally, it allowed me to like succeed and just relax a little bit. And I think that relaxing allowed me to survive that accident. The crazy thing is a couple weeks after the accident, a girlfriend of mine went running on a trail that you and I could push a stroller on. It was wet out. She slipped, hit her head, and never came home. And so I had these two extreme things happen at the same time. And they just didn't make sense, right? Like, how do I survive a car accident that they can't build a scenario where I survive, yet I walked away? And how does my girlfriend go do something that we're promoted to do all the time, encouraged to do all the time so that we stay healthy, and she doesn't get to come home? And so when I'm trying to metabolize these two events, the only thing that I could come up with is like, we really don't get to choose when we die. Like we don't. That's not in our cards, but we do get to choose how we do our life. And am I choosing to live? Because when you come home from an accident that almost took your life and you're watching your kids, when maybe they're fighting, before you might have been that person that's like, come on, stop fighting. Don't like, come on, guys. When I walked in that door and I have two kids going at it, it was a whole different perspective. I'm like, isn't it amazing that I can have two humans that care about the other one so much that they're trying to convince the other one of their opinion? Like there's so much beauty in that. Where before I think I missed the beauty. I was just like, stop bickering.
Wow. It is truly a blessing that you are here and that you took the opportunity to take that experience and glean so much from it. I wonder, in going through the experience that you did, obviously it was a very traumatic experience. At the time, did you have physical things that you had to work through, mental, emotional things that you kind of had to process through?
Yeah. I mean, so we thought I was totally fine when I got out of the accident. And then I kept spiking a fever a few weeks later. So I'd go to the hospital and they'd be like, okay, well, come back if it gets that high again. And I'd go home and they'd be like, okay, come back if it gets that high again. And finally we realized like the seatbelt had ruptured one of my breast implants, but I had those gummy bear kind. So it wasn't like I had a flat tire. And so then I had to go in and I had surgery, and we joke about it now, but it's like I got a new lease on life, I got a new car, and I got new boobs. So that was amazing, right? But we had to get there first. But I will tell you, so I knew my car was going to be totaled. And so I went down to the dealership the next day. And I just said, hey, I need to get a new car, blah, 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 blah. And they had one on the lot that somebody built for his wife, and his wife didn't like the color or something. I'm like, I'll take it. It's perfect. And so they gave me the keys, and then I went to drive. I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to drive. I took an Uber down here. I didn't think about needing to get in this car and drive. And so I'm sitting in the parking lot of that dealership for probably 45 minutes. I literally am like giving myself a pep talk. I'm looking at motivation videos on YouTube. I call a girlfriend who's like, okay, talk me through this. Like, if I don't drive now, the fear is going to get bigger. So what am I choosing to let grow? So I finally got the courage to push the gas pedal and start driving. I had to swallow my heart at least 50 times that drive home, right? It was the longest 35-minute drive I've ever done. I'm sweating profusely. Anytime there was a semi truck in the lane next to me, I would move all the way as far away as I possibly could. And I made it home. And I would say for the next 6 to 9 months, when I was on the highway and I was next to a semi truck, my heart would just race no matter what. And then one day I was driving somebody to the airport, and I got to the airport and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm okay. Like I didn't have the heartbeat race, or I didn't have any of those things going on. So it is a decision you have to make multiple times before it all of a sudden becomes automatic again.
Yeah, absolutely. Your story resonates with me so very much because I was also in a very bad car accident when I was 16, and I was electrocuted and I was not supposed to live. And similarly, it took me a very long time to get behind the wheel again. And I had been in a point where as a teenager, I was battling depression. I had suicidal ideation. And after my car accident, it was like a new lease on life. I wanted to live. I appreciated life. However, my car accident is now 20 plus years ago. And what I've realized is that that new lease I had on life, have on life, that appreciation that I had got at the time, it's slowly dissipated. Life has sort of come in and taken over, and things sort of, life kind of, pushes you in directions, and you don't get to just be in that headspace the same way. And I wonder, you're now 5 years past your car accident. Do you find that the lessons you learned from that experience have started to wane at all? Do you feel that you need to work to remember that your messaging is living this life of significance, that this is this moment? Do you find that you're reaching a point where you need to kind of work to remember it? To our Patreon supporters, thank you. We appreciate you so much. Our goal has always been for moms to know they're not alone in the tough and challenging phases of motherhood. We know Mama Needs a Moment provides this to our listeners.
We are thrilled with the growth of the podcast over the past 2 years. Last year, Spotify shared that Mama Needs a Moment was in the top 30% most followed podcasts, was heard in 9 countries, and had more content than 97% of other creators in the family category.
We have recently launched a Patreon account for Mama Needs a Moment. This is a great way for you to provide additional support to Her Health Collective.
We've set up 3 options for Patreon supporters, each with its very own perks, such as special events, discounts, and bonus content from each and every podcast guest that is available only to our Patreon supporters.
Will you become a Patreon supporter? It would mean the world to us.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like, I remember my first 3 months after the accident, everything was magic. Like everything in life was magic. I got a phone call from the principal's office because of something one of my boys was doing. And the principal was like, kind of expected a little bit different response. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm actually angry. Like, he's going to get in trouble. Don't worry. I'm just so grateful I'm here to get this call, because I almost wouldn't have been here to get this call. So you just become so grateful for all of it, right? The good, the bad, the in between, because they're bonus moments. They're moments that you almost didn't get to have. And then somehow that wears off. I don't know why, but it does. And so then I'll catch myself back in my old patterning. And now it's just about becoming aware.
Do you have any tips or tricks how to build that awareness for our listeners, or how you make that work in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I do a couple things that I think are simple. I'll share like 3 tips that I use that seem to be simple. One of them is my toothbrush talk. So when I was climbing, we just looked out into the world, right? You didn't have a mirror in front of you. You just looked at the world like, wow, isn't this beautiful? I came back from climbing, I'm brushing my teeth in the bathroom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to pluck my eyebrows, or what's going on? Like, you're like, I'm picking apart like everything going on in my life. I'm like, who am I benefiting doing this? Like, why am I even saying these things? So like, I made a promise to myself that my 2 minutes of toothbrush time was going to be only positive talk. Only positive things about myself, only positive things about my day, only positive things. And I think it sounds silly, but we brush our teeth a couple times a day and it has an impact. The other thing that I do, and I think it's beneficial for all of us, is do trigger meditations. So for me, for example, every single time I touch a doorknob, that's a chance for me to slow down and do 3 deep breaths. And it just takes me out of the momentum of whatever I'm doing and brings me back to the present moment and reminds me, like, this is a gift. Like, these things are gifts. Like, do not forget this. And then the last thing I do is we have a red light by our house. So this red light, I live on the short side. So I had it red all the time. All the time I had this light red. And for the longest time, it drove me bananas, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, this light just hates me. And I'm like, one day I'm sitting there and thinking, you know what? The light doesn't care that it's red. Only I am assigning the fact that it's red, that it's bad, right? And I don't know, like, it was I must have had a conversation that morning with a girlfriend about how she has a gratitude journal. I'm like, I wish I had a gratitude journal. I don't have time for one. And so all of a sudden I'm sitting at this light. I'm like, you know what? This is going to be my gratitude light. So every single time I hit a red light, I'm going to start doing my gratitude list here. Sure, it's not a journal, but it's better than nothing. And it's what works in my life. And now, like the kids and I, they all know it. Like, oh, it's gratitude light. Let's say our gratitude things out loud. Now, like sometimes if I hit that light green, I'm bummed. Like, how crazy is that?
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love all three of these. I'm taking these home with me. This is fantastic.
Perfect.
Those are amazing. I love it. I love it. I definitely made notes on those as well. I'd like to transition our listeners into my next question, but I think I have to do it more slowly because the story that we just talked about, it was life altering. But I'd like to first talk about your life prior to the accident. What were you doing prior to the accident, which then brought on other life shifts that we'll get into?
So I owned an investment company that I started when I got out of college. And I had hired myself out of a job over the years so that I could be a stay-at-home mom because I was under the impression that that was the dream position to have. And how lucky am I? And I'm definitely grateful for that time. But as we all know, kids get older and needs shift. And I don't know if I knew how to shift. Right. I'm like, I don't know what this means or how to navigate this space. And so I was telling myself, like, when they got to college, I would get back to me. Like, this is the season I'm in. This is what it looks like. It's okay, blah, 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 blah. And then that accident was like, there's another way to do this, because this might be your last decade or your last 5 years or your last month or your last whatever. And when you start looking at life as in, oh my goodness, time could run out. Now all of a sudden I'm curious and dreaming again, right? Like, I want to know what pasta tastes like in Italy. I want to know, like, these different crazy things. This world is our playground. I want to feel it. I want to see it. I want to experience it. And before, I just kind of lived under the impression like, oh, there's time. There's time. I mean, there is, but we don't know.
When I was researching you and just reading about you, I took a lot of time on your website, which your website is so much fun to look at. I really enjoyed it. And on the website, you have an area where you discuss the different summits that you've climbed. And we'll get into all of that momentarily. But there's also a section where you offer various different challenges to clients. And I think a lot of them are 40-day challenges. You link to a page where you talk about being an inspirational speaker, where you use your 21 years of real world experience in financial services as a way to provide instantly applicable tools to modify mindsets and behaviors that help businesses and teams become break proof. And you've used that term quite a bit. Like you say, break proof. You also have a page for your podcast. Your podcast is called Seek Your Summit. And it has, I think you have about 25 episodes that have been released right now. And that is called Break Proof. Your podcast, is that correct? It's called Break Proof?
We call the podcast Seek Your Summit.
Seek Your Summit. Okay. So the podcast is called Seek Your Summit. And your new book is called Break Proof.
Yes, the book is
okay. Great. Okay. So Break Proof, discover the 7 strategies to build resistance and achieve your life goals. Do you feel that within all of your expressive outlets, there's a singular underlying message that you want to help people to understand?
There's a few core messages, I think. I think from building a business and then climbing these mountains, I realized how much of those stories are the same, right? It's like, oh, this is just a different obstacle because it's a different environment, but it's still an obstacle, right? Or I'm trying to grow this big thing, or I'm trying to climb this big mountain. Guess what? Big mountains take big teams. If you want to grow a successful business that's going to be big, it's going to take a big team to make that happen. And I think a lot of times we get onto our goals and we get tired or exhausted, or like, oh, maybe that was too big of a goal, I'm going to dial it back. That's not a sign to dial it back. That's a sign that maybe you don't have enough help, or maybe you're taking on too much right now to be able to bring it forward. So the book and the underlying message on everything has been about resilience. How do you develop resilience? How do you continue to pursue? How do you continue to expand and grow in this life? And so I take readers on the expeditions with me. We get into these little moments where I can highlight a message that I learned about becoming more resilient that people can apply to their own lives. when we talk on the podcast, it's very much, oh, where have you had success? How have you turned that into significance? And what obstacles did you overcome and how? Right. So very much, I think the underlying thread is resilience for sure. My speeches talk about the experiences that I had on the mountains and just little different hacks that I would do that bring me back into where I was instead of a story that wasn't serving me.
I see. Okay. And then you also have a statement that you mentioned a few times on the website, from a life of success to a life of significance. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah. So I think what happens for us is we get to the mountaintop and we have this success and it feels good, right? Especially if you have people with you to celebrate that mountaintop. But then the real gift, like the real impact, is when you get to go home and you get to share that story, right? You get to mentor others, you get to inspire others, you get to be a light on a path to their pursuit. And that's when your life becomes significant.
Okay.
And the challenge is, so I built the challenges. These are kind of fun. So I have a 40-day parenting challenge. I did this because I'm a to-do list person. And so when I would go on an expedition, I was going to be gone for a couple of weeks typically. And so for 40 days before I left, I would have a daily thing that I would do with my kids to make sure that I was connecting with them. We'd have fun memories and we would have like all these little points that felt intentional and full. And so it's funny, when I got done with the world record, my daughter was like, oh man, does that mean we can't do the parenting challenge anymore? And I'm like, no, we'll still do it. Are you kidding me? If you love it this much, like we'll open it up and like let other people participate in it with us, which has been fun because then you get other ideas from other people and things like that. The Everest challenge came about because I summited Everest in 2021. A handful of my friends did not. They were on teams that cut earlier, COVID hit their expedition or whatever happened. And so they were going back in 2022. I was jealous. Like Everest was such a fun, amazing experience for me. I was like, oh man, I wish I was going back, but I can't. Like I can't do Everest 2 years in a row. So I built an Everest challenge where I climbed Everest from the comfort of my home. And I'd let other people be a part of it. I'm like, we're going to climb to the height of Everest over the next 40 days. And it's really just teaching you like how to get little habits in and allow you to run the stairs like in your house maybe 10 times throughout the day. And all of a sudden over 40 days, you're going to have the height of Everest climbed.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
That sounds so
they're kind of
fun.
like my fun areas, the challenges for sure.
Yeah. Well, it seems that prior to your accident, you had achieved business success, obviously, as the founder and CEO of your thriving financial services company. And you are a mother of 7. And that to me feels like a lot of success and significance. However, you've strived for more. And you say on your website, quote, now you're living with more purpose, vigor, and enthusiasm than ever before, end quote. How do we know? Because it looked like you already had achieved it previously. So how do we know when we're living our best life and when we need to seek more?
I think, like I do, like I truly think like when you check in at night, like throughout your day, right? I mean, we're going to have highs and lows. We're human. We can't exclude the negativity out of our life. We can learn how to go through it and process it faster. But overall, do you feel alive? We know what alive feels like, right? Like I'm way more creative than I was before. I'm way more willing to be bad at something and fail. And like, I just have more bandwidth for whatever the experience shows up as. And that allows my life to be bigger and crazier and all those kinds of things. And that feels good to me.
Will you share a few of your strategies that you teach in your challenges in your podcast or in your
Yeah. So like one of the things that I talk about is when we were on one of our climbs, we were in a horrific snowstorm. And when you're in bad snowstorms without really good light, you use a pink lens for your glasses, right? Because it allows you to see depth and it just changes things a little bit visually versus having sunglasses. It'd make the environment too dark. So I'm wearing my pink glasses. Other people might have been wearing yellow or just plain, like just to protect your eyes, but it doesn't have any color. And so we were going for 2 hours and then an alarm was going off on our phone to remind us to eat and to have a snack and to do all those pieces. And so I'm like couple, a half hour in, I'm all of a sudden looking, I'm like, oh, it looks like we're in cotton candy land. All this pink snow blowing around, and oh, how fun is this? And I wonder if Candyland would be real, like what they, all like the things that your brain starts to play with. And then the rope that I was tied to with the pink lenses looked like a watermelon rind. So then I'm singing that song, Watermelon Sugar High, and I'm like having the best time, right?
Yeah.
Totally forgetting what we're doing, whatever. The alarm goes off on my phone. We all stop. I go to adjust my glasses, and almost instantly, like all the energy evaporates out of my body. I'm like, how long have we been in this horrific snowstorm? And why are we moving? And why aren't we stopping? And all like, all the things, right? Like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. And everybody on my team is like, where have you been? Like, we've all been together for the last 2 hours. How are you not seeing it? Like, where have you been? Right. And it was one of those moments where I was like, wow, our perspective changes our experience all day long. I literally have pink glasses like around my house. Thanks for Valentine's Day, where they come out on like Amazon, and you can buy them in bulk, because it's just a symbol to remind me that if I'm doing something, it's my job to make it more fun. It's my job to find a different way to find pursuit and happiness and all joy in these moments. They're not just given to you. And we have those other lenses that we can approach situations with. We just have to realize like we're not in it, and then switch out so that we can have a better experience.
I love that. Like, that's a mic drop moment right there. Your perspective changes your experience. And it's something we've heard before, but I love the story behind it with the rose-colored glasses, and you're in the snowstorm, and how it changes everything. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I actually feel like I'm going to go into the rest of my day with a whole different kind of mentality there. Thank you, Jenn.
Yes.
Such a fun conversation with Jenn. I really, really appreciated how all the things she shared. She was a very positive, uplifting person. I definitely enjoyed that conversation. What were your favorite takeaways from the first half of our conversation?
So many. And I just felt like every time she spoke, she had something really poignant to say. But I think one of the things that I took away from it was her surrender experiment. Surrender experiment is what the book that she was reading. And then how she talked about her accident and how she had applied that book through her accident. And she talked about how life is overwhelming. She learned through this book and through her accident that you have to relax and choose how you want to live. I think that was a huge takeaway for me. And then, of course, all of her little actions, like the toothbrush talk and the trigger meditations and the red light gratitude list. But those are choices that she is making on relaxing and how to live her life, so that she's actively doing that. What about you?
Yeah. So powerful. I really liked that she talked about the need to be a mom first, and that was her priority. I feel that as a business owner, and with everything we have going on, a lot of times that takes over in my life, and my family, unfortunately, is often put on a back burner. And I don't like that. I don't want that. They are my top priority. And I really appreciated how she put each of those things in order and said, this is my top priority. And that didn't mean that she didn't go on her 40-day hike and leave for an extended period, but she found ways of prioritizing her family and, practicing on the soccer field and, doing what she needed to do to still show up in those other ways. But her family was still her first priority. And I really appreciated that. And I loved her messaging. Really, this comes from the car accident, and it very deeply resonated with me that your perspective changes your experience. And I felt that deeply from my own car accident. And I do feel that is what happened. It changed my perspective. I went from this state of depression and not really wanting to live life to being very grateful that I was here and appreciating life. So your perspective, and she talks about this in both parts of our conversation, the first and the second, your perspective can change your whole world. And it is the story that you tell yourself. It is something you put on repeat. So she said, perspective changes our experience. And I think that really, really resonated with me. And as you said, I love the toothbrush talk, the trigger meditation. She mentioned like when she touches the doorknob, and the gratitude list at each red light. And I love the little moments that she finds throughout her day to focus on the positive. And not even that, because I think that gets overplayed, like, oh, be positive, have positive thoughts. And I think that's just, we overplay that to a certain degree, but she finds moments in her day to shift that perspective. And I've felt that. My accident was 20 years ago, and I felt so strongly for so many years a lot of what she had talked about, but it's kind of gotten further and further away. And I love, like, I'm going to implement all three of those. I love having that in your day-to-day life. So that was part one of this incredible conversation with Jenn Drummond. Definitely stick around, join us next week for part two, where we dive into her training routine and talk about some of the setbacks she encountered, and really how we can also apply that in our own lives. And we also had a really interesting conversation around comparison and, social media, and how it is something that impacts everyone, even Jenn Drummond, but she has some really awesome insights to talk about with that. So make sure you check out the second part of this conversation coming out next week. It's a good conversation. High five, friend. We've enjoyed hanging out with you. Follow us so you're the first to know when we drop a new episode.
If you've enjoyed your time with us, let us know by leaving a review. We always love hearing from you. Until next time, stay true to you.